Hey everybody, we're back. Welcome back to the Trading Post. You know, this is me, Fred, and here's the start of show Noodle. Yeah, we're ready to talk about Fred Files Episode 6. And this is going to be Mel's Hole. And I'm going to add the original audio from Coast to Coast AM, where they had the original interview with Mel Waters. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. We're going to go ahead and do our little spiel here. We're going to talk about the situation, then we'll go into the audio. This may be several episodes long because they have different recordings, and one of them is really, really long. So I think it's like the whole section together, but I got to sort through that first. So you guys hang in tight there, and we're going to be right with you. All right? You guys, hang tight. Hey everybody, sorry on my prior one I said this was episode 6. I'm sorry, this is Fred Files episode 7. Anyways, this is Mel's Hole, Fred Files episode 7. And we're going to go ahead and jump into this. I'm going to brush up on this a little bit. And we're going to have the audio from Art Bell and Mel Waters talking about Mel's Hole. So, let's get into it, shall we? Alright, Mel's Hole is, according to an urban legend, a bottomless pit near Ellensburg, Washington. Claims about it were made on the radio show Coast to Coast AM in 1997 by a guest calling himself Mel Waters. Later investigation revealed no such person was listed as residing in that area, and no credible evidence has been given that the hole ever existed. Okay, now we're going to go to the claims. The legend of the bottomless pit, or the bottomless hole, started on February 21st, 1997, when a man identifying himself as Mel Waters appeared as a guest on Coast to Coast AM, as said prior, with Art Bell. Waters claimed that he owned rural property 9 miles or 14 kilometers west of Ellensburg in Cottitas County, Washington, that contained a mysterious hole. According to Waters, the hole had an unknown depth. He claimed to have measured its depth using fishing line and a weight, although he still had not hit bottom by the time 80,000 feet or 24,000 meters of line had been used. That's a lot of line, you guys. He also claimed that his neighbor's dead dog had been seen alive sometime after it was thrown into the hole. Now, why the hell you throw a dead dog down a hole? Instead of just bury it. I don't understand that, but whatever. Everybody's got their own way of doing things, I guess. But that's freaky, huh? A little paranormal, wouldn't you say? If they seen the same dog, I mean, the guy that owned the dog knew it was dead and sees it later on, yeah, that'd probably put the hair on the back of your neck up in the air. Okay, but anyways, according to Waters, the hole's magical paranormal properties prompted U.S. federal agents to seize the land and fund his relocation to Australia. Waters made guest appearances on Bell's show in 97, February 21st and 24th, 2000 and 2002, and rebroadcasts of those appearances have helped create what has been described as a modern rural myth. The exact location of the hole was unspecified, yet several people claimed to have seen it, such as Gerald R. Osborne, who used the ceremonial name Red Elk, who described himself as an intertribal medicine man, half-breed Native American white, and who told reporters in 2012 he visited the hole many times since 1961 and claimed the U.S. government maintained a top-secret base there, where alien activity occurs. Wow. We're not going down a rabbit hole. We're going down Mel's Hole, ain't we? It's getting deep. Anyways, in 2002, a group of 30 people led by Gerald Osborne undertook an expedition to find the hole, but were unable to locate it. According to State Department of Natural Resources geologist Jack Powell, the hole does not exist and is geologically impossible. A hole of depth claimed that depth would collapse itself under the tremendous pressure and heat from the surrounding strata, said Powell. Powell said an ordinary old mine shaft on private property was probably the inspiration for the stories. and commented that Mel's Hole had established itself as a legend based on no evidence at all. Geologist Pat Pringle doubted Waters' story about having lowered 80,000 feet of fishing line into a hole, saying that the heat of the earth would have snapped it before it could reach such a depth. Local news reporters who investigated the claims found no public records of anyone named Mel Waters ever residing in or owning property in Cottitas County or Manstash. Then they also talked about there's another mystery hole in Colville, Washington, which if you've seen other people that have done videos on this, like Mr. Ballin, Y-Files, they're awesome. They do great jobs on this stuff. Hopefully one day I'll get as good as they are, but that's, if not, that's it. I'm just going to be me, do my thing. But they did say that Mel Waters, supposedly, he did go to that other hole. Can't think of the name of the tribe, the people. There's a particular name for them. I'm sure it's on the recordings once we hear them. You'll hear the whole story. But he went to that other one, and they had lowered I think it was a sheep down the hole, and they got so far down that hole, and they had it there for a little while. They brought it back up, and supposedly they called it a something seal. It was a something seal, but it was like a seal, but it had human eyes, like big human eyes watching it, and it was there. And then it kept like trying to work its way. Like I guess Mel Waters said he touched it or something. Now, after this encounter, because that seal thing, it crawled back and went back down the hole. But I think he said it was like I don't know, telepathic. He had the feeling it wasn't going to hurt him. That's why he touched it. Anyways, after that, I guess because he was sick, I think he had cancer or something. He had, and after touching that creature, supposedly it went away. His health ailments was gone. Now, how much you want to believe of this story is up to you. I mean, hey, find your own truth, like we always say on this show, and that's what we're going to do. We come to our own conclusions. There's no judgment here on this channel, okay? As much as you want to think, yeah, that's outlandish, it's crazy, well, hey, that's your opinion. You're entitled to that. No one's going to judge you for it, not on this channel. But I think there is so much stuff in this world that we just don't understand. Our minds are too feeble to wrap around certain things. I mean, we discuss and we talk about, wormholes and like this pit, could it be a multi-dimensional hole where, they're talking about throwing shit down this hole for generations. That's what brought this all on. He was wondering why in the hell this hole should be filling up. I mean, you're talking people throwing freaking refrigerators and shit down it. Who knows, old tires, whatever junk, before he ever, started living on the property. And everyone around there said that as long as they know, that hole's been there, and everybody's throwing their stuff in it. So explain to me how the hell that's not getting filled up. If they've done this for generations, okay, and you want to expect it to be like a normal, if it's like a normal hole that's, say it's 100 feet deep. Okay, 100 feet, that's deep, right? Well, if you're throwing shit down it for 3 generations, and not just you, everybody in the area is doing this, throwing stuff down this hole. You think that damn thing's gonna get filled? It'd be filled within 3 generations or close to it. You'd at least be able to see the stuff starting to rise up in the hole. So. But that's my take on it. That's what I think about that. But I mean, this guy, he was evidently a shark fisherman, and he had that line, and he said, well, he wanted to check it out. So evidently, I guess he strung up like a he made a makeshift kind of like a tripod type deal, like a plumb bob. So like you got your hole here, you probably got your uprights, 3 or 4 of them, and then he strung his fishing line down through it straight to the center of the hole, so it wouldn't hit the edges of the hole and just kind of, you know. So he did that, and he had a weight on it supposedly. At one time, he said he put, I believe it was a roll of lifesavers. He put a roll of lifesavers on that thing, so that way, when it gets down, and if there's water at the bottom, those lifesavers they're gonna deteriorate, they're gonna disintegrate. So when he pulls it back up and there's no lifesavers on it, that's a good indicator that there's water down there, which is pretty smart on his part. I mean, I'm a dumb hillbilly. I wouldn't have thought of that problem. Who knows? Maybe I would have. I don't know. But I think, you know, from me listening to these recordings, these videos and stuff of him, I think he sounded like he was a pretty well-rounded individual. He didn't sound like he was just off his rocker. So therefore, you know, I mean, and not only, here's another thing. I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent. This damn ADHD kicks me in the ass. It is what it is. But anyhow, they was saying like how he was saying about the military, literally like they claimed his property, you know, whatever. And you know, basically from what they were saying, they kind of in a way like threatened him, hey, you know, well, you know, you could have a you could end up having a an illegal still out here, or illegal, you know, marijuana stuff, and we can basically they can just throw his ass in jail, you know, pulling that card, you know, trying to flex their authority. And we all know that they do that. It happens, you know. I'm sure it's, I've never run into it personally because I'm a nobody. I'm just another Joe Schmo, dumb hillbilly running around. But he, you know, and not only did he say that there was military there, his neighbor, there was a neighbor that was on there, and he said, you don't want to go up there. Anybody that tries to even go up there or even tries to get close, you're in a whole world of problems. And that's legitly straight from his neighbor's mouth on an interview that I've seen. I wish the heck I could remember what it was from. I'd put it on here as well. But I mean, and that guy, he was an older fellow. He was probably, I'd say he was in his 60s anyways, or so, maybe. And I couldn't see that guy, you know, being the type to just kind of church things up a little bit, dressing it up. He sounded pretty authentic, and you could tell that you can hear the worry and concern in his voice when he said it, because he knows they're not playing around. Anyways, sorry for my rambling on and my craziness. We'll go ahead and get to this. I'm going to go ahead and put the audios on here. You guys can listen to them. And now this is probably going to have to extend out. I'm telling you guys, there's a lot. The one video, my God, the one audio is like 3 hours long. I think that's like all of them compiled together. And then I got other ones that's separate. So I got to sort through those, and I'm going to try to get it to where I'm going to try to make this in manageable packets, like each episode, so each part of the episode. So anyways, you guys hang in there, enjoy yourself. Oh, by the way, you guys like my new shirt? Check that out, man. Yep, that's right. We always have leftover parts, don't we? We just made it better. Anyways, hang on. We'll go ahead and get that audio on here for you. All right.
Coast AM with Art Bell. It's an encore presentation featuring the best of Art Bell and his guest, Mel Waters, and the story of Mel's Hole. the bottomless pit in Washington State. Art will be back live tomorrow night with his guest, best-selling author Dean Koontz. And now, this hour from February of 1997, enjoy the best of Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell.
Art Bell is taking calls on the wildcard line at 702-727-1295. That's 702-727-1295. First-time callers can reach Art Bell at 702-727-1222. 702-727-1222. Now, here again, Art Bell.
Well, all right. I have got Mel on the line. No thanks to all the Mel imitators on the special Mel line. I finally picked up the phone during the newscast and called Mel's number, and he was just coming in. So I've got Mel on the line. Mel is the guy with the never-ending hole, and we're going to ask him about it here in a moment. I have read that fax now twice on the air, and I've got a lot of follow-up faxes. Here's one entitled, Yet Another Mystery Hole in Eastern Washington. Art, you'll love this. It was sent to me a couple of days ago by email, and it's all about another one on the Indian Reservation in Colville, where there is another mystery hole. Anyway, we'll get to that. Well, all right. Now to Eastern Washington. I guess this is Eastern Washington. Mel, are you there?
Yes, I am.
First of all, Mel, thank you for answering. What are you doing up at this time of the morning?
Well, after I sent the fax, I'm living in town here now because we had a couple of our buildings out there cave in after the big snows that we had out here last month.
Oh, yes.
And so thereby goes some of the construction debris into the hole. So,
all right. When did you discover this hole?
Well, the hole has always been there. We've been out there for a couple of years now, and the hole has been there since we've been there. It's been there since the previous owner was there, and the previous owner there was quite elderly, and I'd say he was there for a good 30, 40 years before we moved in.
Wow.
And then
and so there's been a thing of throwing stuff down this hole for a long
time.
It's
been going on, for as long as the hole has been there, I assume.
When nobody knows that, I guess. All right. How do you pronounce the name of your town, Manastash?
Manastash.
Manastash.
Right.
That's right. Thank you.
Actually, I'm in right now. I'm in a little town called Ellensburg.
Oh, I know Ellensburg. All right.
You must know about a rodeo here, then.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Well, so we've been there for several years, and we just take all of our trash, rubbish, anything we have that we have to get rid of, we take it, throw it in the hole. Everyone's throwing their stuff in the hole. The people from around there throw all the stuff in the hole. I mean, it's just been going on for a long time. Well, I got this thinking one day, how come this hole is not filling up? It must be an awfully deep hole.
That's a good thing to consider, sure, as you throw stuff in it for decades, literally.
And so, I used to be I would say pretty close to a professional shark fisherman. So I had a couple of huge fishing reels, went out there and started letting the line down. I figure after one...
Did you weight the line?
Oh, yeah. There's in fact, the original line is still down there. I have just been adding to the line and keeping track of how much line I have used. So I've not reeled it in.
How much weight is on it?
There's a 1 pound weight at the bottom of it.
1 pound weight, all right.
1 pound weight. It's a triangular 1 pound weight.
Okay.
And so that's at the bottom of it at first.
So in other words, it would go down kind of like a plumb bob.
Exactly. In fact, I have it rigged across the center of it there, and it goes straight down from the center there. And occasionally I try to move the line there, but when you're moving that much line, you really can't do a whole lot with it. But it seems to, there seems to be, it's not resting against anything at this point here, and it continues to go down freely. And so when I was out there earlier, I'd let out a little bit more line. And
so you actually went out there tonight after I read this?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Well, it's not too bad out here right now. It's in about 25 degrees, so it's not too cold.
Have you ever heard anything coming from any sounds or anything?
Well, the normal thing to do is kind of like yell into it there, to see an echo, and I've never heard an echo come out of that thing.
No echo.
At all. that's one of the first things I noticed about it. As usual, I brought the dogs with me. They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing, and I went back to the Suburban and hung out over there. So it was kind of if I try to bring them there on a leash, they'll just dig their feet in. They do not want to go anywhere near the hole, and so I don't know. It's just,
well, you've got miles and miles of.
I think. Well, I'm measuring it by feet. I convert feet to yards, so I don't know how many miles that is. I assume it's a fair number of miles, though.
Well, 5,280 feet is a mile, so you really think you've got 80,000?
Yes, yeah. I get line in 5,000 yard spools, and so I've gone through that many.
Well, you have got a hole then that goes. Well, you can't say to the center of the earth, but you've got a hole that goes miles and miles and miles into the earth. I would think a university would be out there, boom, just like that.
Well, my wife does work for a local university here, and, we've been talking to them about it, and one of the things is they find it quite incredible that I've let that much line into the ground, but that's what I've been doing.
Have you ever thought of winding it all back up again?
Well, when I let out the first 1,500 yards of line, I reeled all of that back in.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know if I had hit water down there, because I thought that's a lot of feet.
You bet.
That's 4,500 feet of line. Did I hit water? So what I did is I sent down a roll of lifesavers.
Lifesavers?
Yeah, so when it hits the water, the lifesavers will dissolve.
That's true. Oh, I see. So very smart. So
yeah, it's an old shark fisherman's trick there. We used to send our bait out on a balloon attached to a roll of lifesavers, and the bait would go out into the ocean on the tide.
Yeah.
And then eventually the lifesavers would melt, and the bait would fall to the bottom. You couldn't cast a big old mackerel out there that far. So
that's amazing. So. What do you got any guesses?
I don't. I have no idea. I thought it could have been a mine shaft, but the thing about it is the surface part of it's been very well cared for. I mean, someone built a very lovely wall around it. And
all right, tell me about the nature of the side of the walls. In other words, you must be able to look down far enough, at least, to examine the side of the walls.
Sure. It's stone for about 15 feet down.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's soil, dirt, and then, further down rock. But I can only see to the extent of, really powerful flashlight. I brought halogen lights out there to try to get a better look down there, but the visibility really isn't there. You cannot see much after a while. But it's a retaining wall. I'd say it's about a 3.5 foot retaining wall, and it goes down about 15 feet, and then it's...
Well, I'll tell you this much. No matter how powerful a light, and I was even thinking about a laser, when you're talking about 80,000 feet, forget it. No.
Well, they should have some technology that can give me an idea of how deep this thing is. I mean, obviously, the old fishing line method is only going to go so far.
What we need here is a volunteer. Real, I'm serious. Somebody who would be willing to be lowered into this hole.
Well, I don't. To be honest with you, I don't even know if there's any air down that far. I mean,
I wouldn't know about that either.
Or what
true.
kind of pressures we're dealing with. These are things that are totally beyond my grasp in terms of knowledge about these things. But
do you own this property?
It's our property, yeah.
How long have you been working on this?
Well, we've been out there for a couple of years. I said about 4 years now. But this project here with letting down the line, that's only been since last summer here, and it was just I said, well, how come this thing isn't filling up?
Well, sure.
And I talked to the neighbors around there, which are on when you're out there in the country, your neighbors are pretty far away, but they all know the hole out there.
They all know about it. So it's
well, yeah, because they all bring their trash out there.
So the local legend of the hole.
Yeah, this could be an apocryphal story, but one guy claims that he threw his departed canine down into the hole.
Oh, really?
And he swears. Well, the story is the guy that did it swears the dog actually came back to him, and he was a hunter. He was a hunt. The story is that he was a hunter, and he was out there hunting, and he saw the same dog. He had the same collar. He had the same little little metal thing on his collar there, and he said it was the same dog. And he says he knew he threw the dog into the hole. But that's not my dog. That's not my.
It's not your story, but it's a story of a resurrected dog.
Yeah. This is as you can well imagine, this is all Native American land around here, and so one of the lines of inquiries I'd like to make is is there anything about this hole in regards to the Native Americans? That's something I haven't really pursued right now. But
if you had a fatal disease, Mel, would you jump in the hole?
I would.
You would?
It's
based on the dog story?
It is in my will.
What?
Should I meet my demise,
that you would be thrown in the hole,
disposed of into the well.
I'm not sure the health department would allow that.
Well, one of the things that I thought about later on is, what if this is like contaminating our water, And we've had, I'm sure you do this out there in Pahrump too.
Well,
you have your water checked all the time.
Well, yeah, no personal offense to you, Mel, but if there was a possible contamination problem, I'm sure you're a clean guy.
Yeah.
But as you deteriorated, you would possibly produce E. coli or something horrible in the local water supply.
Well, again, so far it hasn't.
If you weren't resurrected.
I mean, the water around that area is absolutely pure water. It is,
And so nothing thrown down, all the old junk and trash, and nothing has polluted the water.
No, I can't speak for everything that's been thrown down there, but none of that has been showing up in the water that people draw from their wells. I mean, the water's as clean as it's ever been out there. I think we get water that comes off the Cascades or something.
Yeah.
It's just really great. It's really wonderful water.
Mel, you wouldn't be pulling my leg.
No, I'm not. And I'm one of the reasons that I went out to the property tonight, other than it just it's something that weighs heavily on my mind. I was afraid that after I sent the fax out, that there'd be people around there because it's...
well, there may be, but we have not identified specifically where it is.
Well, there aren't, as far as I could tell, too many big holes like that around, and so at least the people in my neck of the woods are familiar with it, and I kind of almost expected to see a small party of people.
Well, there may be. Now, I mean, come daylight, there may be. But remember, folks, this is private property. This is Mel's home.
It is posted, too.
Oh, it is? All right. There you are. So without knowing exactly where it is, I wouldn't look for that to occur, but there is going to be substantial curiosity about it now, Mel.
Well, I think I've, let you know as much as I know about it. I certainly want to find out more. I'm mostly curious. I was mostly curious about the depth of it. I mean, how deep is the deepest hole anyone has ever found?
Well, I've never heard of anything deeper than this.
I thought maybe this would be like Guinness World Book of Records type hole here. And as far as things I thought it would be like. Could have been like an old mine.
Well, now, here's a couple things to think about. I've heard as you go down into the earth, Mel, that it gets hotter.
Ooh.
Right? So you would think that your fishing line with a weight on it at some point would melt or, something, but there's still weight on it, huh?
Yeah.
The
line is not moving freely. I mean, it still falls under its own weight.
Oh, that's amazing. Let's let some of the audience ask you questions.
Okay, I think I can do that.
All right, because I just might be missing something. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Mel, who's got the hole in Washington.
Hello.
Hello. Do you have any questions for Mel? Hello? Okay, well, I guess that guy gave up. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Mel. Hello.
Hello. Oh, you got a guess now?
I did. Well, I mean, sort of.
Oh well, I was calling about something else.
All right. Well, thank you. First time caller line. You're on the air with Mel. Hello.
Mel.
Yes, Mel.
Oh, Mel. I wanted to talk to Art. I'm on the wrong line.
Yeah, you are.
I'm sorry. That's the 222 line.
1222 is first time caller line.
That's what I thought I was calling.
Well, that's what you got. But I mean, we're talking with Mel right now. He's the guy with the hole in Eastern Washington.
Okay. I just have something for Art.
All right.
Mel.
Well, call me back when we're into open lines. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Mel. Hello.
Hi, Art. This is Dave in Milwaukee.
Hi, Dave.
Hey, I was listening to this. Very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I just wanted to let you know, I looked up in the encyclopedia, and the Marianas Trench, which is the deepest hole we know about.
That's in the ocean, right?
Right. Is 36,000 feet deep.
So this is, certainly over double that already.
Right. And it also says, under mining, that with current technology, we can only go down about 1,600 feet.
Wow.
That's great. That is great.
So you've got something here that already qualifies for Guinness.
That is wonderful.
Yep.
Oh,
So,
gosh,
yeah,
I like that. That's great.
What?
Did you said 1,600 feet?
That's what they said, yeah. 1,640 feet, it says, with current technology is about as deep as.
All right. Thank you very much for that information. So already we now learn that you may have a Guinness qualifying hole there, no question about it.
Gee.
But I want to know, inquiring minds want to know, I would think even if we just had somebody lowered past the 1,600-foot mark to see what's down there.
That would be cool, but it wouldn't be me.
You wouldn't do it?
I wouldn't go down in the hole.
At least not while you're still alive.
No, then I will, but I mean, for the time being, no.
I understand. All right, east of the Rockies, you're on the air with Mel.
What if the rope broke?
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
Mel?
Yeah,
and
hi.
Art?
Where are you calling from, sir?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas, all right.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that you would like somebody to be lowered down into the hole.
That's right.
I would be willing to do that.
See, there you go, sir, a volunteer.
We've got a volunteer.
I mean, obviously under certain conditions.
Like what?
Just a cage, for one.
A cage?
Yeah, just in the event that there's some kind of weird subterranean thing eating all of this garbage down there. Obviously, I would want to be in some kind of a cage.
Well, what makes you think, though, that anything that could gobble up, say, a refrigerator...
wouldn't get the cage? Well, I would have, obviously, a very powerful light, and I'd be able to see it at some point before it's too late.
So we'd have radio contact with you, and we could hear you scream, at least.
Yeah.
Sounds too much
or
like
an
Jaws.
instant up button.
An up button?
An instant up button. On back up. At like a high speed.
And you could take a camera with you.
Yeah.
With a light and show us everything as a...
Yeah. I've got a pretty adventurous nature to me anyway. So this plus I have a very appealing draw to the supernatural for some reason. Anyway, just naturally in my personality.
Well, nobody's saying there's anything supernatural about this, but...
Well, the dog story would indicate something supernatural.
Well, that's true.
Everyone's dogs are scared of the hole.
Yeah.
It's not just my dogs.
No, that's a very good point. In other words, other dogs won't go anywhere near the hole, huh?
Yeah, my dogs will follow me everywhere. I mean, no matter where I go, they're,
Except
to the well.
Uh-huh.
Now, you call
is this possibly at a grid point on the planet?
I wouldn't know about grid points, other than I know they
know
exist.
anything about the grid points in that area?
Well, I know. Yes, thank you, sir, from Austin. I've heard about grid points, but I would have no way of knowing where they are and whether this is one of them. I wouldn't know. Now, this is just a hole. And he's right. There is something a little paranormal about it when you consider the dog story. I tell you. Mel, hold on, all right? Mm-hmm. Well, here's somebody from Las Vegas, Mike, suggests that we throw a cat down the hole. Listen to the cat scream as it goes down. It's a horrible idea. I don't know about people who do that, throw down a cat. Oh, man. And you hear the echoes sort of going down. I'm not for that at all. All right, Mel, here comes some more people. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Mel with the hole.
Art, why don't you have somebody, I know you're connected with somebody that's got radar available. Radar would be the way to go to find out the depth.
Well, would radar go down a hole
Absolutely.
without hitting the sides?
You don't need a fancy radar to do it.
You mean like a... What about sonar? No, I guess
No, sonar you couldn't use because you don't have anything for the medium to go through, like underwater for sonar.
Yeah.
But radar would definitely work.
In other words...
I was just curious if you'd call a government agency to come out.
But wouldn't radar return a hit from the sides of the hole and bounce around down there?
No. Purely directional radar. What do you use when you're driving down the highway?
Well... You use radar, but
exactly.
That's out in the open. That's not in. I don't know enough about radar to know if that would work, but it's a good idea.
Well, I've used it for years, but
all right,
that's the way to try it.
All right, that's. How about a cop's radar?
I'm not sure if they'll return an echo off of that. It's possible.
All right. Well,
it would tell you how fast the hole was going, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Tell you how fast. Cute, Mel. Wild card line. You're on the air with Mel. Hello.
This is pretty funny. Good evening, Mel.
Hi.
My name is Barry. I'm just hop, skipping, and jumping away from you down here in Yakima.
All right.
And I'm awful surprised I haven't heard of this before now.
Well, now, Mel hasn't made this public as far as I know. Have you, Mel?
No, it's just on my land.
I see.
So
my neighbors know about it.
But, I mean, wait. This is the first public announcement of the hole?
As far as I know, there's no newspaper accounts of it, not in the Daily Record or in the
well, there will be now.
Herald.
There will be now.
Well, as usual, you've heard it here first, folks, on our bill. Before I get serious, I just wanted to kind of lighten things up here and ask if you'd considered making a contract with the refuse collection department from Yakima County. You could probably make a killing on that.
I read an article in the paper how they wanted to close down our local dump out here, and I almost seriously suggested.
Listen, here's another possibility for you. Do you know that I live near an area where there's supposed to be a high-level nuclear dump? Now, if this is really, in effect, a bottomless pit,
whoa,
you may have something that the U.S. government wants.
So I could, rent this thing out.
You're damn right.
And move away as quick as possible.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to mention here, we've got many mediums of technology, and the gentleman who suggested radar, I think, was onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Say for instance that Guinness came out and was going to, they're pretty thorough with their investigation before they're going to print you.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
Anyways, maybe the way to go is to have someone lower in a sensors package, which is something that measures for noxious gases, temperature, and I'm sure they could focus a radar, probably pencil thin, and just hook it up to a endless supply of cable and lower it down. That'd be awful interesting.
Look, I'd be interested, even if we don't get a hold of the guy from Austin, to lower a camera and a light down.
When I was out there this evening, it's kind of a sort of a full moon out there, and one of the things that occurred to me is maybe this has some sort of astronomical type thing.
What do you mean, Mel?
Well, it's like how the various pyramids and things in Egypt, are supposed to be lined up on various star systems or whatever.
Well, was it a thing like where the moonlight was shining into the hole?
Well, no, but I just happened to notice the full moon, and all of a sudden it just sort of put two and two together there.
You've never felt drawn to the hole personally, have you? I mean, in terms of
You mean in terms of some sort of spiritual involvement, or
no suicide? No suicide.
No. I mean, I keep the lid on it there because it's an attractive nuisance. You don't want local kids there climbing on the wall and falling in.
There's actually no way of knowing whether people have gone in. Because they'd be gone.
Not in my
down with a refrigerator.
Again, if I can find out something from the local Native Americans on, maybe with some sort of burial thing, or I mean.
And you can drop a big rock, and you can hear it going down, probably bouncing off the walls or something, but you never hear a splash.
You never hear a splash. I've even taken old television tubes, the picture tubes, and.
You've dropped picture tubes down there?
Yeah, I've dropped. I hate to say this here, but I've dropped more than one of them down there, and I've never heard it implode or anything. Nothing.
EPA, you probably shouldn't say that on the air.
Well,
they'll come and get you for that. I mean, TV tubes.
Well, it is my.
It's your own property, I know, but these days, Mel, doesn't make any difference. I mean, tomorrow morning you're liable to wake up and there'll be tanks and Boutros Ghali will be there.
That's true.
All right, east of the Rockies, you're on the air with Mel.
Hi, WKXY, Sarasota.
Sarasota, Florida, yes.
Let me say, let's throw Mike from Las Vegas down the hole.
Really?
Okay? Yeah. Okay, he's the cat. Okay. I do have a question for Mel. You're a fisherman, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever felt a tug on the line, and if you did, what would you do?
I don't have a hook on it. There's just there's a 1 pound weight.
Yeah, but she's saying if something obviously was pulling on that line.
What would I do?
Yeah.
What would you do?
I'd
run.
Yeah.
I'd seal that damn thing up, and I'd never get near it again.
Yeah, I'd put the lid down on it at that point there and say, that's it, the dump is closed.
And at any point, did you ever pull up the weight and look at it?
Yeah, I asked that too.
The first series of letting down line, when I got about 4,500 feet down there, I had a roll of lifesavers down on the bottom to determine if there was any water down there, and of course, if there was water, the lifesavers would melt. I didn't do that. But since that time, I've let the line continuously go down. I've just spliced on to the end of the line and continued.
Yeah, just trying to find out where the bottom is.
Yeah, that was my main question. It's like, how deep is this thing? Where does it go? Well, it goes into the earth, but how far does it go before it'll stop?
All right, thank you, ma'am. I think that a light and a video camera. I mean, Mel, you could have a special as you got down past, what did they say was the deepest hole, 1,600 feet?
1,600 feet.
As you got down past 1,600 feet, you'd have a network special on your hands, Mel.
That would be good. I'm thinking about putting up a web page on it there if I can get one of those.
What's his name? Rivera would come.
and they'd lower him into the hole.
Only if we were all lucky. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Mel. Hello.
Yeah, this is Terry from Bremerton.
Hello, Terry. Oh, you're up in Washington again, yeah.
You're right. Well, I was wondering about how much does 15 miles of fishing line weigh?
I have no idea. I'm just letting that sucker go down. I have not reeled
What if
it
you've
in.
already hit the bottom and you got a pound of fishing line on it? You
That's
just
right.
Keep letting it down.
Yeah, I
already
should
hit the bottom.
I should weigh one of those spools because I'm getting them in 5,000 yard spools.
Yeah.
And so I should weigh a spool and sort of deduct the cost of the spool itself and see what that would add up to in terms of how much that weighs.
Miles.
So in other words, it could have hit bottom some time ago, and simply the pure weight of the line.
Right.
It doesn't feel like it is reached bottom there. There's no slack in the line.
But even so, well, there might not be with that much weight. But even if that's true, caller, think about it. He's still got the deepest hole ever heard of in the world.
Yeah, he does. But the weight of the line would keep pulling the line down.
Yeah. But there would be so much line down there by then. But
what pound test line is it?
I'm using 20 pound. I couldn't
pounds.
afford to go much
Do you think you have
higher.
20 pounds of line on it already?
Pardon me?
Do you think you have 20 pounds of line in the hole already.
I'm sure there's more line than that.
It would break by then.
You know, we're talking how many?
There must be a lot of tension.
I have about 20 spools of line.
A lot of tension on that.
Yeah.
20 spools of line on there.
Wow.
And it's still hanging on there. You know, I'm you know, that weight continues to go down. I don't know if there's a way of weighing that thing, you know, as it is.
Yeah, I was just interested in how much the line would weigh itself.
I could probably do that. You know, get one of those hanging scales.
Sure.
And the spring operated and stuff, and just sort of knot it off up there.
Yeah, why not? It's worth a try. And the other thing that's worth a try, I suppose, although you'd be cranking for a long time, would be to crank it back up again.
Well, no, I could just weigh like one spool of line and multiply it. I think I'm up to about like 18 spools of line right now. So, you know, it wouldn't be too hard to get a weight on it.
All right. You'll report back to us on that?
Yeah, I can. Sure, definitely.
All right.
Yes, definitely.
All right. First time caller line. You're on the air with Mel. Hello.
Yes.
Hi. Where are you?
I'm Bellingham, Washington.
Yes. Oh, Washington again. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I was wondering what was the Mel said that he had a triangular 1 pound weight on the end of the line.
You're right.
Yeah, I was wondering what elements was that weight, or is that weight composed of?
It's a standard lead fishing weight.
Mm-hmm. You know, you were talking earlier, Al was talking earlier about the heat when you get deep into
Well, I was speculating. You know, I saw the movie with Pat Boone about the journey to the center of the earth. It was supposed to get hot when you go down, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also, what about the magnetism? You know, that's a factor you consider also.
The magnetism?
Yes.
You're off into a territory that I can't answer. Mel, you're gonna contact your wife works for a university,
yeah,
huh?
a local university.
Have they? I mean, did she tell them about this? And if so, what did they say?
Well, the people she talked to, because I nag her about it occasionally, say,
Sure.
they're telling her, you don't have a whole day that deep, you know.
So, in other words, they don't believe her.
No. What I'm trying to do is, you know, kind of entice them out there and just bring something out there to measure how deep it is. That's
well, Mel, would you be willing to talk to, like, newspaper people or television people? They're crazy. They'd send someone down there.
Well, I know I'm talking to a lot of people on the phone right now and on the radio, but I am not sure if I'd want to have a TV crew and
So you're not sure you want that kind of publicity?
No, you know, I mean, you know, I'd be happy to, you know, like I say, you know, I could put together a website on it and you know, keep people, you know, informed about what's going on, because, you know, I'm sort of making this my
people would accuse you of going to the well one time too many.
That's probably true.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Mel. Hello.
Hello there. That is absolutely amazing. All right, this is Ken from Scottsdale.
Yes, sir.
And one thing I wanted to mention about that, when you mentioned about a car that had apparently fallen from the sky.
The Chevrolet, yeah.
Right. I recall reading about many incidents in England and throughout Europe of nuts, raining nuts of different kinds. I mean, Brazil nuts and hazelnuts.
Sometimes it rains nuts on my program. Listen, we're not talking about things falling from the sky right now. We're talking about a hole.
Right, I know. Well, it was open lines a minute ago. Now you switched it.
Well, I've switched it because I have Mel.
Oh, well, anyway, as far as the hole goes, isn't it possible there could be like an aquifer or something and there's water or something?
Mel has not found any water at all. He lowered lifesavers in, and the lifesavers came back, and that was how far, Mel?
4,500 feet.
4,500 feet, and the lifesavers came back intact, right?
Oh, yeah, they were absolutely dry. They weren't dissolved. They were just perfect.
That's pretty definitive. First time caller line, you're on the air with Mel. Hi.
Mel?
Hi.
Hi, this is Conrad in Grass Valley, and I've got some thoughts about this whole well problem.
Sure.
First of all, if he's putting line down the well...
Wait a minute, sir. We've got to stop this because people are going to call it a well. There has never been any water found in this hole.
Okay, a hole.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. If he started out with a 1 pound weight, and he starts adding fish line to it,
right,
then the amount of weight down the hole increases. All right. Now, if he knows the weight of the line on a per foot basis, as he puts more weight down the hole, if he could measure the total strain on the top of or load on the top of the line, he would know if any of that line was draped on anything. See, the thing is, once he gets a fair amount of line down there,
that's a good point.
The 1 pound weight on the end is insignificant. And he wouldn't even. It could be hung up on something or laying on the bottom or something, and he would never know it.
Yeah, but he put lifesavers down 4,500 feet. So even if what you're saying is true, this is still by a long shot the deepest hole ever.
Well, that assumes it's even that deep. The one thought that you had that I thought was very valid was the temperature as you go farther down into the ground.
Well, that's what I think that's right, isn't it?
Oh yes, of course. By the time it's down 4,000 feet in the ground, where the temperature would probably be well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
If the 100, the monofilament and the lead would certainly survive 100 degrees just fine. You're probably right. That is interesting. Mel, I say that we got to put a person down there, a volunteer.
Not a cat.
No, not a cat. No cats. But a person, maybe like a media person. One of these anchors from maybe one of the Seattle Como stations or something. Lower them down.
Oh boy. Again, I'm intrigued. Again, I've been running line down there for quite a while, and I don't think I've hit bottom. The weight seems to be hanging plumb over there, and like I say, we've been throwing things down there for a long time, and this hole has not filled up. I don't know. Maybe it's getting incinerated down there. I don't know.
All right, and you would swear on all that is sacred to you that what you have told us is the absolute, unadulterated truth.
This is my hole, and this is the truth about it.
God, it's an amazing story, Mel. Who else besides your wife, the people you've tried to talk to at the university, and yourself? I guess your neighbors know about the hole?
Oh, yeah. There's probably good... Oh, well, in terms, not families, but individuals, probably a good 20 people that use the hole regularly.
To throw junk into?
Yeah. It's always been done.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, I used to like to throw stuff off bridges and stuff like that and into holes just to hear it hit bottom.
Never heard anything hit. I mean, if you hit the side, of course, but if you just drop it straight down, yeah,
9.5 feet.
Go straight.
9.5 feet is certainly large enough so that if you got in the center and dropped it straight down, it would go straight down, right?
Yeah, you can just lean right over there and get it going straight down. And as far as anything I can see, visually, with the halogens and flashlights,
the light just what? Fades away into blackness?
Yeah. You've got nothing after a while. You can see as far as the beam will go, and that's it.
Does anybody have any theories about, you said a dog was thrown into the hole dead and then came back alive again, right?
The story is the guy was out hunting, and he saw his dog, and he knew it was his dog, as it was the same dog. It had the same collar, it had the same tag on it, and the whole thing.
Oh, man. Does anybody have any theories about what properties would be in the hole to resurrect a canine?
Gosh, I'd like to think that this is something like really benign, like cows have gone down there. I haven't heard any cows coming back, or at least that you would know, but I don't.
Well, it's not the creator. Well, look, we're out of time. Mel, you get the honors from near the hole in Washington State. Tell them.
From the hole, it is good night to everyone from coast to coast.
And beyond. Thank you, Mel.
Stay tuned for more of the best of Art Bell with Mel Waters. coming up after these messages.
Well, we talked about it Friday night, Saturday morning, last hour. Now, a lot of you might not have heard that last hour, so I've got Mel, and there's an update. It may be the deepest hole anywhere in the ground. It may go on forever, for all we know. I'll catch you up here in a moment. I received the following fax last week. Dear Art, I'm writing to you to see if I can get some help from you or your vast listening audience. I live in rural eastern Washington near the Manastash Ridge. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly now. On our property, there is a hole. Like the previous owners and the owners before them, we've been throwing our trash into the hole. Apparently, the hole has been there as long as anyone can remember. At first, I thought it was an ancient well. Anyway, the hole is 9 feet, 9 inches in diameter. There is a stone retaining wall around it, and we put a steel door on top to keep anyone from falling into it. As I said earlier, people have been throwing their trash into the well, that's in quotes here, for decades. Furniture, household trash, dead cows, building debris, you name it. The thing is, I noticed the hole never filled up. So I got curious, actually obsessed, began trying to measure the depth of the hole. I emptied 3 fishing reels of about 1,500 yards of monofilament trying to determine the depth. Soon I was buying fishing line in bulk. So far, I've sunk about 80,000 feet of line into the hole without reaching bottom. My wife works at a local university with a geology department. We hope to get some professional scholarly help in determining the depth of the hole, as far as I can tell. There's nothing else particularly strange about it, except for 2 other things. Dogs refuse to get within 100 feet of the hole. Birds won't sit on the retaining wall or metal door. Another strange thing is there's no echo when you yell into the hole. Indeed, I've never heard anything hit bottom when tossed in. We once tossed in an old refrigerator, and we never heard it hit bottom, no crash, splash, or crunch. I hope your listeners can help with possible explanations. I'm wondering if this, based on my measurements thus far, might be the deepest hole on Earth. Signed, Mel Waters. Well, you know me. I get a fax like this, and I jump right on it. So I called Mel in the middle of the night. We put him on the air. Last hour of the show last week, and we got the story of Mel's Hole. But now, Mel's Hole Part 2. I get the following fax earlier today. Art, you're receiving this fax simultaneously with a fax I attempted to send you earlier today. Much has developed since the first fax. I'll try to explain as rationally as possible what has transpired since my earlier fax. Around 1 p.m., I drove to Yakima to shop at the Costco there. On my way back, I decided to stop at the property. When I got there, my access road was blocked by military personnel that were armed. I noticed that several pieces of yellow gear had entered and exited my property based on the direction of their tread. I asked one of the guards, what's going on? He said there was a plane crash on the property. I said, well, that's strange. I told him there's no smoke. I don't see any in the distance. He asked who I was, and I let him know I own the property. I then asked to talk to the officer in charge. A non-uniformed man came up to my Suburban and let me know that I won't have access to my property until the crash has been completely investigated. I mentioned the yellow gear and the lack of smoke, and that they were on my property. I was told by this man that it's not necessarily my property, and that it would be very easy to find a drug lab on my property. Well, I got the drift. I asked if I could leave. He said, sure, don't come back until we contact you. I asked if he wanted a way to contact me. He said, they know how to contact me. I said, I suppose you don't want me to talk to anybody about this. He said, nobody would believe it anyway. That's about it for now. Oh, I talked to one of my neighbors earlier today, and he told me something very interesting. He said that some time ago, he was driving up to the hole at night and thought he saw the most bizarre thing. He said he saw a beam of solid black coming out of the then uncovered hole. I said, what do you mean? He said he saw something blacker than black coming out of the hole, like a searchlight reaching into the sky as far as he could see. So there you have it. There actually is more. Here is from the state of Washington. Here's Mel. Mel.
Hello, Art Bell and listeners.
Hi. When I got this second fax from you, I called you up, and you were totally freaked out.
Oh my God, I was. I tell you, I was. I feel a lot better now. Let me tell you, but.
Yeah, you were just a pile of nerves when I talked to you. Now, what? Explain again. You went up to your property. You were going to examine the hole because we were talking about it. I'm sure you had interest. So, and they stopped you there, huh?
Yeah. Well, I originally after the show on Friday night, I went out there and in the evening and noticed there were some helicopter activity around the property. There was further helicopter activity the next day. And so I figured that clearly somebody out there listens to your program.
Oh, yes.
And I think...
John, I'm really sorry I brought this on for you. I didn't... It certainly wasn't intentional.
Well, when we talked yesterday, you felt that... probably the best thing to do is to be public in this matter, and
that's right. Your best protection is to be public, Mel.
Well, anyway, so there was a lot of activity around there, and I've had some thoughts about this, and if they knew where the hole was, I would imagine that they could take some readings of the depth of the hole from like satellites.
I don't know about that. I'm sure they have a way to measure it from ground. I'm not sure about satellites.
Well, we did have a lot of hovering up there in the air, I'll tell you that. So we did have that situation.
And they stopped you, right? In other words, there was a barrier there?
Well, there was on, I'll tell you, I'm getting a little confused about days. I guess this is now Tuesday morning.
Yeah, that's right.
But since... what they had originally there was a barrier, not a barrier, but just armed soldiers, basically.
Armed soldiers.
Armed soldiers. Since then, they've erected some further down the road. I mean, you can't even. I mean, basically, there's the road, there's the access road, and then finally kind of meander into the property.
Okay.
They now have Jersey barriers at the road.
What are those?
Jersey barriers. Those are. They're kind of like big chunks of concrete.
Like the bomb barriers they have at the White House. Those kind of things.
More or less. So you could squeeze maybe one vehicle through there, but it's definitely being controlled over there.
Now this is your property, right? You've got the deed to this property.
This is mine and the bank's.
Well, you're in the bank. We're all in the same situation. So they won't let you on your own property, and they're claiming there was a plane that crashed.
Yeah, that was the thing. And I said, well, where's the smoke? I've seen plane crashes before. There's got to be smoke. And again, I asked to talk to the officer in charge there, and I figured, one of these military types would come up, and I don't know, maybe he was just dressed in civilian clothes because of, the nature of what happened there. But he told me that I won't be able to go out there until the accident's been investigated. And I was insistent about my property rights, and he seemed to indicate that this might not necessarily be my property in regards to the drug lab. So, but the problem is I do have a sort of a lab on the property. But
no, wait a minute.
Yep.
Ooh. You have a sort of lab? What kind of lab?
Well, I work working in the alternative health field here and on the property, and that's one of the reasons, and this can all come out now. I imported some plant life from northern Nevada. They were Native American plants that the Indians used there for treatment of various illnesses, mostly cold and flu.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we, because of the nature of the climate, and it's very similar to northern Nevada, we thought we would cultivate these plants and then
use it as a cure. It's a very effective cure.
It's not a narcotic, is it?
No, it's not narcotics.
Well, then what the hell are they talking about drug lab?
Well, there is a lab there, though. I mean, and
but there's no. You're not cranking out crank or methamphetamine or anything.
Yeah, but if they had, for instance, if they found like it was a drug lab, they could seize my property.
So it was their way of telling you, listen, brother, stay away. Let us do what we're doing, or we might find a drug lab here. Then it wouldn't be your property anymore, and you might even be in jail.
Yeah. So they're clearly letting me know, and my feeling was that they were in control.
So what have we got? We got some kind of national security hole now, or is it what?
Well, excuse me. I assume by now they've made a lot of determinations about it, and it sounds like it's something they want. Today on my my answering machine, I had a message from my real estate agent.
Oh?
And he says that he had someone who is very interested in purchasing my property, and would make me a very generous offer. Now, I haven't gotten back to him, but I think we can put two and two together here. Somebody wants to get their hands on my property.
So what are you going to do, Mel? Are you going to accept the, quote, generous offer and get out of this with your skin intact and a few bucks, or are you going to fight?
Well, that's a good question. That's one of the reasons why I didn't get back to my agent today. Is that I wanted to sit down and think about it before I did anything. I don't know what their so-called very generous offer is. But on one side you have a possible drug lab, and on the other side you have a very, very generous offer. And so I would kind of be curious to know what their generous offer was.
Well, that's the carrot-stick approach, no question about it.
Yeah, they're working the both ends here, I think, and I'm, like I say, I feel a lot calmer about this now than I did before. It was.
Now you were almost panicked, weren't you?
Yeah. It was just a little bit too much.
All right, you did some measurements. People were asking about the weight of the line that you were putting into the hole. And so, what have you determined?
Yeah, I did some real quick and dirty work here with this here. First of all, when I was out there on the weekend, I was able to actually measure or weigh the line that's in the hole, and basically I tied it onto one of these little fisherman's scales, okay? And,
all right.
It's a little spring-operated thing there, but I had a weight on that, including the 1 pound sinker on there. It looks like it weighs about 17, 18 pounds.
What does?
The line that's in the hole.
In totality?
Yeah, the entire weight of the line. Basically, the line weighs 10 ounces for every 1,000 yards.
Okay, so 17 or 18 pounds.
Yeah.
It's 20-pound test line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got 1 pound down at the end of it, tied on the end of it, right?
That's right.
So
one of the things is and this has become a moot point at this point, but if I drop much more line down there, and based on what your caller said, this line will break at probably at the top of the line, because that's where all the pressure will be. So
but you believe you're down 80,000 feet?
Yeah, without a doubt.
80,000 feet?
8 with, what is that, 4 zeros on there?
Well, so miles, 5,280 feet, so you can figure it from there.
Someone's, I believe me, I haven't done the math on there. I always forget how long a mile is, but...
how long have you owned this property with a hole?
We've had the property for about 4 years now, and... the guy that had it there had been there for a long time. I believe he'd been there for over 40 years. It's very rustic. I think I might have indicated to you we do not have electricity there. We do not have phone service.
No, it's just raw property, right?
Well, we have some buildings and the housing structures. All of those were basically damaged with the heavy snowfall.
All right, Mel, that's right. Recent snowfall. Mel, hold on. We'll be back after the bottom of the hour, right? Stay.
I apologize for the gap and interruption in this program right now. The way that my editing system is, it's not allowing me to butt everything up the way it should be. But the program will resume. Please just be patient. Hold on. This is all due to copyright issues. So please just hang tight, and we will resume the Art Bell recording shortly. I appreciate your patience. Thank you all for tuning in and watching this. I appreciate you all. Thank you so very much. I don't know what to say. I thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Now back to Mel. And Mel, a lot of this audience would not have heard, but there was another little bit of the legend of the hole. Apparently, at some point, somebody threw a dead dog into the hole, right?
Oh, yeah, I was telling you about that before the other night, and people throw everything in there. There's dead cows going down the hole. There's, sheep, whatever. You name it's gone down there. One guy threw his old hunting dog down into the hole, I guess, as a form of burial. And the story that I heard was that the hunter, was out there hunting one day, and he saw his old departed dog. It looked exactly the same. In fact, it was wearing the same collar and the same tags on it. So he was the story is they were like absolutely believed the dog came back somehow.
And you believed it to the degree that you changed your will so that when you die, they were going to throw your body into the hole, right?
When I'm gone, I'm going to the hole.
Oh, well, but maybe not now, huh?
Well, that's a matter for conjecture. Today, I didn't have a chance to mention this. After finding out, the story about the black beam, the other day, I thought I'd go out there and do some more research amongst my neighbors who, may have.
That makes sense. You can't go on the property. Might as well talk to the neighbors. Yeah, sure.
And so, you go out and buy them a cup of coffee and find out a few things here. Anyway, I had talked to one gentleman who's really quite elderly and has lived in the area for a long time, but he said that originally, and this is going way back, so this must go back about 40, 50, maybe longer, that there was a series of, around the hole, there was a series of stone columns. I said stone columns? And
stone columns?
Yeah. And so I asked him, could he I sketched out a little how the property looks there and see if he could place the stone columns on it.
Yeah?
So, he drew it on the napkin there, and I said, that's very interesting. Well, I had my power book with me, and I pulled up a picture of Stonehenge.
Yeah.
And he says, that's exactly what the thing looked like.
You're kidding.
He said that they had these, pillars lined up, and just like that. He said it wasn't, it didn't have that thing on the top, they had some, things on top of the pillars of Stonehenge.
Oh, that's really odd. Listen, you can't get photographs, Mel. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I asked you about photographs. They won't let you close enough to take any photographs.
I was afraid to take pictures of the guards, to be honest with you.
No, I understand. How about a drawing, Mel? Can you get us a drawing?
Yeah, I could do that. I had a question for you. The night that I talked to you, said you got another fax about another anomalous hole.
That's right.
Colville area?
Oh, that's right. That's exactly right. I've got that fax. And I'll try and get to it. But
okay. On Sunday, I listened to your show a bit, and you had Linda on talking about HARP.
That's right. Project HARP.
Now HARP is supposed to look for
underground bunkers and tunnels and such. Yes,
that's right.
Now, maybe it's looking at your hole. Who knows? Here's a fax for you. The following is a theory regarding Mel's property. 1. Imagine 2 naturally occurring iron veins just happening to reach toward the Earth's surface around help me pronounce it. Manastash? Washington. There is a tremendous amount of naturally generated high-voltage electricity deep in the Earth. What if the bottom of the hole on Mel's property is a naturally occurring focal point, a lot like the device that Mr. Markham built? The Earth could have its own, in effect, time machine. Over the centuries, through various quakes and so forth, all of the soil above the portal would have fallen into the bottom and been launched into some other time. This explains the lack of echoes and the apparent depth of the hole. Tell Mel to lower a clock down there.
Well, let me tell you, I was over at the university library today, and I wanted to find out a little bit more about Earth geology. And one of the things I found out is the crust, on average, on the Earth is about 20 miles deep.
Okay.
Now, underneath the crust, and this is something that a lot of people don't know about, there's something known as the moho,